Hey guys, welcome back to gideonsstuff, and welcome back to another discussion video. Woo, discussion videos! Today we're talking about budget knives. As you can see here on the table, I have one of my very favorite, not just budget knives, but knives in general, the CJRB Feldspar. Really cool knife. But what I want to talk about today is what is a budget knife? And some of you, to some of you, that might seem like kind of a weird question. Like, well, obviously a budget knife is, an inexpensive knife. Everyone has their own, kind of definition of, it's under $100, under $75, under $50, whatever. Everyone's kind of got terms like that. But I kind of want to talk, we're going to get in the weeds. We're going to get into the weeds about definitions and terminology because we can. Because I'm a scientist and we love making terminology as complicated as possible. Well, first of all, I'll start with what my interpretation of budget knife for the longest time was. When I first got into the hobby, I thought it was like, you have your customs, you have your mid-techs, you have your high-end premium production, and then you have like your premium but not quite high-end production knives. Then you had budget knives, and then you had garbage. And so, like the CJRB Feldspar for me was like a perfect example of a budget knife. I thought, okay, CJRB is a budget brand, Civivi is a budget brand, Kaiser's Vanguard line, budget knives, hooray. There we go. I'm drawing lines. Anything kind of below that is, gas station or mall ninja, trash, right? But, that's not exactly true. I think in a lot of cases, the lines can kind of be blurred. So let's talk for a little bit about, is budget knife a price or quality quantifier, right? Is a knife low cost because the materials and stuff used are strategically planned to keep the knife at as low cost as possible while still maintaining a high degree of fit and finish? Or does poor craftsmanship and poor qualities make a knife inexpensive? Or maybe let's not even just say poor. Let's just say, unrefined maybe, or lacking, I guess. There's no nice way to say this without sounding very mean. But what I mean to say is, you take the CJRB Feldspar. It is a very well-made knife. It's very well made. You've got these contoured G10 scales, and you've got the chamfering in here. You've got this nice stonewash on the blade, but there's definitely some things that are not as premium. The pocket clip. This is I think this is an okay clip, but especially on these earlier ones with the button screws, that's kind of a corner cut. D2 steel, keeping materials down. And if you compare that to something such as, do I have it right here? I do. This Wee Minax, 20 CV blade, titanium. You have this extra milling. You've got the little fancy pivot. The tolerances are a little bit, tighter and stuff. And man, gosh, I forget how good this knife is broken in for me. Oh, this is just, it's a dream. Yummy. But, so what is it? What is it that makes the CJRB Feldspar a budget knife? Is it materials or is it the craftsmanship? Because, you can think about something like I had an F and Grow knife that I would definitely consider to be a piece of trash. They had the same materials as this Feldspar, D2, G10. Well, allegedly D2, but we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. We'll say it was D2. But it was just made really, really crappily. And so, that was something that I could definitely consider to be trash. Not budget, but trash. So it's like, okay, a budget knife is, it's based on, your fit and finish and stuff, and, it's based on how well the knife is put together. And so you think, okay, well, that's, yeah, cool, With the CGRB Feldspar, we're getting decent enough materials, G10, D2. I don't really have a whole lot to complain about there. And good build quality, In fact, they even went a little bit extra with things like the pivot collar and the reversible pocket clip. But something that not a lot of YouTubers really think about or delve into are budget tiers lower than, well, maybe not even lower than the Feldspar, but like, I think the QSP Penguin is just about the lowest budget knife that most of the bigger YouTubers kind of focus on. Now, I'm not saying, okay, I gotta say this up real quick. I'm not saying that other knife reviewers are like bad at what they do. I'm not saying that gideonsstuff is the best knife reviewer out there. No, because I'm not. Like, I'm far from it. But I'm just saying that in the community in general, I guess, maybe I shouldn't even just use YouTubers as an example, but in the community in general, a lot of folks kind of have a point where they stop. Or they're like, okay, this is as budget as I'm willing to go. Anything below this is trash, right? And for some people, that might be at $100. For some people, that might be at $50. It doesn't matter. I used to be someone who kind of thought of budget knives being defined by materials. And I think that's something that's really been, it's kind of become the norm. In fact, in the knife world in general, a lot of things are just judged by materials alone. Like, you slap M390 or 20CV on there and bam, you got yourself a premium knife, baby. And I don't think that is the entire point. And the company that has taught me this the most is Camillus. This is the Camillus Defy. This is a $15 knife, and it is awesome. It's awesome. Now, okay, let's compare against our Feldspar. Actually, you know what? Let's compare against our Penguin. What makes this a $15 knife and what makes this a $25 knife? Right? I'll be honest with you. I mean, QSP has fabulous fit and finish. They really do. And this knife is not quite up to that category, but the fit and finish on this knife is excellent. It's really, really good. I would put this build quality up against a lot of budget knife makers. Like, it's very well put together. We've got good centering. Everything's like, where it's supposed to be. The action's fantastic. The blade is done nice. We've got this good satin finish. They sharpened it well. It's definitely a knife that you can work with. What makes it super budget, though? Is it the materials? Probably so. 420 steel and, the really, like rubber and plastic handles. So, in that case, if we're just going by materials, it's like, oh, 420 and plastic and rubber, that must be a gas station knife. That must be a garbage knife. And it kind of looks like a gas station knife. Well, I mean, it kind of looks like a tractor, right? It's kind of got a John Deere theme going for it. But this build quality is far, far above any type of gas station knife. And there's a lot of Camillus knives that are like that. And so for me, this is 100% a viable budget knife. Like if someone comes up to me and they're like, hey, Gideon, you film videos about playing with knives like a psychopath. I want to buy a pocket knife what should I get? It's like, okay, well, what's your budget? Well, I don't really want to spend a lot of money. I'm like, okay, get a Camillus Defy for 15 bucks. You know, and then it's like, oh, well, you know, maybe I want something a little bit nicer. You know, maybe I should spend a little bit more. This is a nice knife. The materials, you know, maybe the materials are not up to spec, but for 15 bucks, can you really complain? Can you really complain? And so that's kind of what I want to, I guess that's kind of the point of the whole video I'm making here, is that, you know, I think budget is really defined by build quality. You know, a budget knife. And you know, in the knife community, when we say budget knife, you know, we kind of take it to mean a knife that is good but affordable, you know. And so, yeah, this for me definitely fits into that definition as a knife that is good and affordable. You know, it is not a gas station knife, right? Here's a knife that's a $20 knife. This is the Gerber Swagger. And I would not consider this a budget knife. Hear that? Yuck. Look at the sharpening job on this. Yuck. I would consider this a junk knife. A gas station-esque junk quality knife. Because it's not made well. For me, this is not really in the considerations of, I mean, wow, this is going to be mean, but this is not a real knife. Gosh. Not a real knife, right? Gosh, I'm being so mean. The sad thing is I know people that carry these, and I'm sorry, guys. I'm very, very, very sorry. Now, I'm not saying that materials don't matter at all. But if this Gerber was in Magna Cut, I still would tell you, no, it's not built well. It's not made well, right? Let's bring up another example of materials kind of, you know, being an interesting point of discussion. The Spyderco Tenacious. These knives, I see these for ridiculous prices all the time. The other day, I was at a Cabela's, and I saw the Spyderco. It wasn't the Tenacious, actually. I think it was the, is the Persistence the one that's smaller than this one? I can't remember. But anyways, it was Persistence for like 58 bucks. I was like, eesh, it's a little high. But I still think that the Tenacious line of knives is definitely worth talking about when you're talking about budget knives. So, 8CR steel. A lot of people write off 8CR steel. And I'll be honest with you, it's not my favorite steel at all. I don't actively hate it as much as some people. But it depends on the knife. Like, for example, here's this Camillus. This is an AUS 8, which is pretty similar to 8CR. Honestly, I like AUS 8 better than 8CR 13. It just seems to be more consistent for me. When you're dealing with 8CR, like some 8CRs, like absolutely just like sharpened aluminum, and then some of it is, you know, okay, but you know, there's a lot of variability with 8CR. AUS 8 seems to be a lot more standard for me. Maybe I'll make a video on that sometime. But you know, this knife here, 23 bucks with AUS 8. Okay, you know what? It doesn't really rip my face off. It's not offensive to me. $50, it's a little bit overpriced. But, you know, if someone asks me, you know, if there's someone who's new in the hobby and like, hey, I bought a Spyderco Tenacious, I just want to know, you know, did I get a good knife? I'm going to tell them, hell yeah, you did. The Spyderco Tenacious is a great knife, and it is still worth talking about in the budget category. Why? Because of the build quality. Because this knife is built much better than a lot of other, you know, like, it's built better than gas station knives. Would I like to see it less expensive? Yes. Do I think it's overpriced? Yes. Do I think it's a good knife, though? Yes. Yes, I do. I think the Spyderco Tenacious is a fantastic knife and definitely deserves a look, you know? I feel like this is, honestly, I feel like this is a better knife for a lot of people than the QSP Penguin. Why? Honestly, the blade shape is just more versatile. I think a lot more people in a lot more varied positions will get use out of this. Like even if someone works in an office or a warehouse and they just do utility cuts at work all day, if they want to go camping, this is a great knife to have out in the woods. It's got a great blade shape for stuff like that. Warnings like this or sheep's foot blades like this aren't really my favorite thing to have out in the woods unless it's a backup. But I think this could be a great EDC knife for someone who, just works a regular job. This is a great EDC knife for someone who might work construction or stuff like that. I really do think that it's a lot more versatile than the QSP Penguin. So, it definitely deserves a mention, and it is well built. This knife feels very, very well built. It's very solid. It has, that kind of Spyderco build quality that you want, right? And mine is off-center because I've been fooling with it for a while. But, it's a well-made knife. It's a well-made knife. So, just to kind of wrap that up again, materials do play a part in, what defines something as budget. But, like this knife, in order to keep it as cheap as it is, yes, the materials had to take some reduction. Materials cost money. There's no arguing with that, right? Certain materials cost more than others. But what I'm saying is that just because you see a knife at your Tractor Supply for $15 doesn't mean that you should, be like, yeah, so that is beneath me. That is a garbage knife, just garbage, without really taking a look at it, because I do not think materials make a knife a garbage knife. I think fit and finish does. You could have, again, like I said, you could have a knife made out of Magna Cut and titanium, but if the stop pin flies out the first time you fix it, or you flick it, if the stop pin goes flying out, you have a crappy knife. So when we're talking about budget knives, when we're talking about knives that are still good but affordable, I used to think that, it kind of started with the QSP Penguin and went up. And then, you have your companies like Ganzo and stuff like that, but, people have different issues with things like those. But again, those are kind of knives that, you order online. And I don't know why, but this is something that I felt, I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate to it too, but, I've always felt like, if you can order it online, it's usually higher quality than, if you find it at your hardware store. And I think in a lot of cases that does hold true, but again, not always. This came from a Tractor Supply, so there's that to consider. For me, the fit and finish has kind of really become a big selling point for me. This is the only WE knife that I've reviewed on the channel, and I've had a couple of others and handled some, but they've never really stuck around that much. One of the reasons this one sticks around is because I just love the design. I'm a Ferrum Forge fanboy. But a lot of their stuff nowadays I'm not really excited about, because it feels like they have $150 build quality, but they're slapping M390 and charging, $250. You remember the kite fin they had? I had a kite fin long time ago. Before I had the channel, I had a kite fin, and I loved it. I sold it, but I might get another kite fin because that was a great deal. $150. It felt great. And, I handled a WE knife at a show recently, and I just, it was good. It was good. Don't get me wrong. It was good, but I didn't feel like it was $250 worth of good, right? So then let's talk about some of the kind of weird areas of budget knives. And I promise I'm going to wrap up this video. I know it's been very long, but budget knives are getting a little bit odd now. Like Civivi, I do not consider Civivi to be a budget brand anymore. The Riffle, I think, was kind of their last great budget knife, and it's discontinued now, which sucks. But recently Civivi's been moving on to things like the Terax, which on this channel we call the Civivi Tetanus. $112 or whatever it is for that knife. And, if the build quality is so much better than their other knives, like if their build quality is just getting to the point where it's impeccable, I might pay that much money for that knife with the materials they're offering. But from what I've heard, it's built just like most other Civivis, which are built very, very well. Do not get me wrong. I think Civivi has some of the best build quality out there, but not really $112 worth, for Nitro V and stuff. So, you've got stuff like that. Then you have things like the CJRB Scoria, which I love. I love this knife. You guys know that. I've used and enjoyed this knife for a long, long time. I do not consider it to be a budget knife, though. Especially not this version here. For me, budget knife is kind of like, $75 and under. But this knife, again, I'm kind of trying to steer myself away from just automatically assigning things as budget knives based on price and materials. Like this knife here, this is kind of a mid-range knife for me, because I think, for everything you're getting, the price you're paying and stuff, the build quality, it's definitely a step above, it's definitely above the feldspar, and it's just different. It's different. You got the titanium and all that. It's an affordable knife, but I wouldn't really call it a budget knife, right? So there's my ramble. I'm not sure if we learned anything from this or not. If I had to sum up everything I said, it would just be, judge your knives based on observed quality, right? Just because something is in a blister pack on the shelf at Tractor Supply doesn't mean that it deserves less attention than something you order off of Blade HQ. And yeah, when I review this knife, it is going to get a good review. It's going to, get a review just, like my other knives. Even if I include it in Cheap Knife Week, it's going to be carried, it's going to be sharpened, it's going to be used to cut things, and, it's going to be treated like a real knife, not like a gas station piece of junk. So, I guess it's time for me to get off my soapbox, but, yeah, honestly, I think the budget knife world is getting really, really exciting nowadays. And even though some companies like Civivi are moving away from budget, I feel like a lot of Kaiser is kind of moving out of the super budget tier. They're more focusing on like the $60 and up category, which is kind of like high end budget, I guess. There's a lot of cool stuff going on in the budget world, and we're getting fit and finish on knives that are a lot better than stuff that you would see, 10 years ago in the same price category. But yeah, I also want to mention Tucson real quick. What makes Tucson a great brand? It's not the fact that their knives are affordable for the materials you're getting. It's the fact that they're affordable for the build quality you're getting. So yeah, I just wanted to say that. But there we go. Please tell me in the comments below what your thoughts are. I've been Gideon. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Adios.